I'll never forget the look on my wife's face, pure shock, mixed with a flicker of betrayal as she stared out our living room window. It was one of those perfect spring afternoons, the kind where sunlight dances through budding trees, casting playful shadows on neatly trimmed lawns. Sarah, my wife, was propped up on the couch, her leg, fresh from a grueling surgery, resting on a tower of pillows. The breeze drifted through our open windows, carrying the faint scent of blooming flowers. Then we heard it, the sharp, determined clack of heels marching up our walkway. Through the glass, we saw Pamela Hayes, known around Meadow EW Heights, as saw Karen striding toward our porch like she owned the place. Her blonde hair, sprayed into submission, didn't budge in the wind. Her crisp navy blazer, emblazoned with the HOA logo, screamed authority. Without so much as a glance at our door, she snatched Sarah's aluminum crutches, propped against the porch railing, tucked them under her arm, and stormed off. Her voice cut through the air, muttering about blatant violations and neighborhood standards. Sarah's whisper broke the silence. Did she just steal my crutches? I couldn't believe it either. Those crutches were Sarah's lifeline. A brutal car accident had left her with a shattered tibia, fixed with titanium plates and screws after a complex surgery. She was in constant pain, unable to bear weight on her leg for at least 6 weeks. Her doctor had been crystal clear: minimal movement, but those crutches were non-negotiable for basic mobility. Who steals medical equipment from someone in recovery? Apparently, Pamela, our HOA president, whose obsession with her own version of the rules had been terrorizing our neighborhood for months. I bolted outside, hoping to catch her, but Pamela's gleaming SUV was already peeling out of our cul-de-sac. Neighbors, who'd peeked out at the commotion, quickly ducked back inside or busied themselves with their gardens, avoiding my gaze. Everyone knew better than to cross Pamela during one of her enforcement missions. Standing in our driveway, fury and helplessness churned in my gut. This wasn't just another HOA spat. This was cruel, inhumane. Sarah was now trapped, unable to even hobble to the bathroom without help. I dialed Pamela's number, reserved for HOA emergencies. No answer. 3 minutes later, a text pinged. Some medical equipment must be stored out of public VYEW per section 7.2 of our guidelines. The crutches will be held at the HOA office until compliance. Saw my hand shook as I read it. There was no rule about medical equipment tied, scoured those bylaws when we bought our house 2 years ago. This was Pamela's signature move, twisting vague rules to fit her vendettas. Let me back up. I'm Tom Harper, an electrical engineer who spends my days designing circuits for a firm downtown. Sarah and I had dreamed of a quiet life in Meadow EW Heights, lured by its pristine parks, community pool, and the promise of neighborly warmth. The brochures painted a utopia of smiling families and tidy hedges. What they didn't mention was Pamela Hayes, whose thirst for control turned our dream into a nightmare. Sarah, my rock for 10 years, is a saint, patient, empathetic, and sharp as a tack. As a newly appointed municipal judge, she'd climbed the legal ladder with grace, from public defender to prosecutor to the bench. But 2 weeks after her appointment, a distracted driver T-boned her car, Leah VYing her with a fractured leg and a long road to recovery. Those crutches were her last shred of independence. Now, Pamela had stolen even that. Back inside, Sarah's face was pale from the effort of shifting on the couch without her crutches. She's not VYing them back, is she? She asked, reading my expression. I showed her the text. Her eyes closed briefly, then opened with a steely glint. This has gone too far, Tom. I've tolerated her nonsense, but this is personal. Pamela's reign of terror wasn't new. She'd find us for a wrong shade of blue on our mailbox, measured our lawn with a ruler. It was 1/8 of an inch too long, and once cited us for a newspaper left in the driveway while we were on vacation. She'd harassed the winds next door for a too loud wind chime and slapped the elderly Thompsons with a fine for Leah VYing their trash can out an hour past curfew, despite Mr. Thompson's recent knee surgery. Every neighbor had a Pamela story, but no one dared challenge her. I'm getting those crutches back, I said, grabbing my keys. Sarah stopped me. Wait, she thrives on drama. Let's do this right. She had me call her surgeon, Dr. Carter, who sent a letter confirming the Crutches' medical necessity. Armed with it, I drove to the HOA office, a pretentious nook in the clubhouse Pamela had decked out like a CEO's suite. There she sat, behind a massive desk, Sarah's crutches propped behind her like a trophy. "Mr. Harper," she said, her smile cold. "Hear about your violation?" I handed her the letter, calmly requesting a Fair Housing Act accommodation. She barely glanced at it. "The Fair Housing Act doesn't trump our rules, Tom. Exceptions breed chaos. Maybe get a storage box approved colors only, under 24 inches. I fought to keep my cool. "Pamela, Sarah had major surgery. She can't wrestle with a box to get in and out of our house. It's temporary. Can't you bend a little?" Her face hardened. Rules are rules. That's what keeps Meadow VYEU elite. After 30 minutes of her stonewalling, she graciously returned the Crutches with a 48-hour deadline to fix the issue or face due law 50 daily fines. DRI VYing home. I passed neighbors trimming hedges to Pamela's exact specs, their lives dictated by her whims. I wondered how many suffered in silence. Well, I told Sarah. She didn't explode, she strategized. She texted Ellen Shun, a retired CIVYL rights lawyer and rare HOA board ally. Ellen confirmed. No rule banned medical equipment. The bylaws even required compliance with federal laws like the Fair Housing Act. Pamela was bluffing. Sarah filed a formal complaint with the HOA board, citing discrimination. We expected pushback, but Pamela escalated in a way we never saw coming. She posted a rant on the neighborhood's private Facebook group, slamming entitled residents, clearly us, for threatening frivolous lawsuits. Worse, we discovered she'd filmed herself snatching Sarah's crutches, posting the VY Deo online with the caption, "Saw this is what happens when you ignore HOA rules. Enforcement in action." Saw the clip VYEU'd thousands of times, showed her creeping onto our porch, grabbing the crutches, and whispering about taking a stand. Sarah's anger finally broke through. She's not clueless, Tom. This is about power. She's using the HOA to bully us. The community split. Pamela's loyalists cheered her dedication. Others, like Ellen, called her actions illegal. Then, Sarah, after consulting a housing law expert, filed a lawsuit against Pamela and the HOA, alleging violations of the Fair Housing Act, the ADA, and state disability protections. It wasn't just about the crutches. It detailed Pamela's pattern of targeting vulnerable residents, from elderly couples to families with disabled kids. Neighbors rallied behind us. Then Gwen shared how Pamela fined their Diwali decorations. The Thompsons recounted fines despite medical struggles. Even neutral residents spoke up, exposing a community suffocated by Pamela's tyranny. We braced for Pamela's counterattack, but fate delivered a twist that still gives me chills. Through a random court rotation, Sarah's lawsuit was assigned to none other than Judge Sarah Harper, my wife. Her clerk called, baffled, and Sarah immediately planned to recuse herself. Integrity was her core. She'd never preside over her own case. But before she could file the paperwork, a routine court hearing turned into a showdown. It was a standard calendar call, where cases are briefly acknowledged. Sarah, still on crutches, arrived early to file her recusal, but got delayed by another case. I was in the gallery, there to drive her home. Pamela strutted in, decked in a sharp suit, oozing confidence beside her attorney cousin. She hadn't noticed me or realized who was on the bench. When the bailiff called, "All rise for the Honorable Judge Sarah Harper," Pamela's head whipped up. Her smug grin vanished as Sarah entered, her judicial robe flowing, crutches steady, radiating dignity. Pamela's jaw dropped, her attorney whispering frantically. For once, the unstoppable Karen was speechless. Sarah, unflinching, called the case. I must note a conflict of interest. As the plaintiff, I'm recusing myself, and the case will be reassigned. Her eyes locked on Pamela, calm but piercing. "Ms. Hayes, you're the defendant, correct?" Pamela's attorney stammered a reply. She was frozen, the weight of her actions crashing down. The woman she'd mocked, whose crutches she'd stolen, was a judge saw. That VY Ral VY Deo Now Evy Denke against her. Word spread like wildfire. Neighbors flooded the Facebook group, sharing stories of Pamela's abuses. Her deleted video, saved by others, became her undoing. Sarah recused herself, and the case went to Judge Michael Ramsey, a no-nonsense jurist. With Pamela's video, the medical letter, and neighbor testimonies, the Evy Denke was damning. Her board allies, fearing liability, abandoned her. At a settlement conference, Pamela caved. She resigned from the HOA. New bylaws banned discrimination, and a REVYEW committee was formed to audit her fines. Pamela was ordered to complete 40 hours of community VYC at a disability aid organization, a poetic jab. Sarah waived personal damages, focusing on reform. This was about stopping a bully, she told me, not cash. The next day, Ellen and a dozen neighbors showed up at our door with flowers and a card signed by nearly every household. They begged Sarah to run for HOA president. She smiled but declined. My role as a judge conflicts, and besides, no one person should hold that power. Form a council, let every voice count. Her words hit home. Justice isn't revenge. It's building systems that lift everyone up. Pamela started her community VYC, reportedly at a rehab center, where she'd faced the realities of disability. Sarah's leg healed, and Meadow VYEW began to feel like the community we dreamed off united, not DVY dead. But the saga left scars, and questions linger. What would you have done in our shoes, fought back, or stayed quiet? Was Pamela a VY lane, or just misguided? Should Sarah have pushed for harsher penalties, or was reform enough? Drop your thoughts below. Hit that like button if this story fired you up, and subscribe for more real-life dramas. Let's keep this conversation going.